Hello, this is RJ from Cave News USA, and today we're going to go over whether or not the CFP got it right. And for those of you that don't know what the CFP is, that is the college football playoff. It's college football's attempt at doing an expanded playoff. Prior to around 1978, you would just play your bowl games, and whoever was ranked number one was declared national champion. Then over time, there's been efforts to get number one versus number two into a bowl game to decide the national championship, like the BCS, and it had its myriad of problems, such as split national champions or multiple undefeated teams not able to continue to play and see who could actually win the national title, and a number of controversies. So they expanded to 4-team playoff, and that came with its own set of controversies because we also had 5 Power 5 conferences at the time, and we had multiple undefeated teams be left out of a 4-team playoff, mid-majors almost never getting a chance themselves to get involved. And so the NCAA finally did something about it. They expanded it to a 12-team playoff, a move that I think is excellent, honestly. It's really good for college football to have this 12-team playoff, and I really think it turned out well, and I'm excited to see what they do in these games that will actually matter in December and January to crown a national champion. College football's changing. There's a lot of conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, and being able to pay players now. And so, I will be a lifelong college football fan myself. That will definitely never change. I've seen it all. They still are very much rooted in tradition, but it's good to see them evolving in a way that I think will actually help the game. So with that being said, did the CFP get the right 12 teams? My answer is yes, and I'm about to explain why. But if you're new to the channel, please remember to like and subscribe. Let's get right into it. So, first I'll tell you the top 4 teams get a bye, and that would be number 1 Oregon, number 2 Georgia, number 3 Boise State, number 4 Arizona State. And the number 5 and 12 matchup is Clemson at Texas, because the first round matchups are at campus sites. After that, they're at neutral locations. The number 11 at number 6 matchup is SMU at Penn State. Number 10, Indiana at number 7, Notre Dame. And number 9, Tennessee at number 8, Ohio State. I'll give my predictions on who will win these games and how I would fill out this bracket here shortly. If you guys are familiar with college basketball, it's a very similar bracket in the sense that it's a fixed bracket. There's no reseeding involved like you would see in, let's say, the NFL playoffs. So, a couple things I want to touch. Did the CFP get the right 12 teams? We'll start there. I think they did. I think these are the right 12. Automatically 5 conference champions qualify. The top 4 conference champions get the byes, which benefited Arizona State greatly when Clemson was able to beat SMU. This is also the first time a 3-loss team has an opportunity to play for a national championship, because Clemson is a 3-loss team, and they got in because they won their conference against SMU. Now, there was a lot of hoopla about, well, should Alabama jump in over SMU? I agreed with the committee that SMU should still stay in. A lot of that reasoning being the fact that they were very good in the second half, and they were almost able to beat Clemson anyway. Their losses are like a 3-point loss to Clemson last week and a 2-point loss to BYU, I believe, which is another ranked team. So I think SMU does belong in the field. Now, I do want to talk about what changes I would make. First, to the format. I do agree that top 5 conferences should get into the tournament. What I disagree with, and what I hear a lot of people disagreeing with, though, is that they'll be given the automatic buys. I do think that you should qualify for the tournament if you win your conference and you're a top 5 conference champion. I'm down for that. I just don't think you should automatically be rewarded a bye. I'll give you an instance of this. So Boise State is going to be listed as the 3 seed. However, in the rankings, we know that Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, and schools like that are actually ranked higher than Boise State, yet they will be forced to play a first-round game. I don't love that. I honestly don't love that. And the same is true for Arizona State, who is definitely a beneficiary of receiving a first-round bye. A team that isn't even ranked in the top 10 of the CFP gets ranked 4th because of winning their conference. Again, I'm cool with getting into a tournament by winning your conference. I'm not cool with this way of seeding. That's not how the college basketball tournament works, for instance. They don't just start seeding out the top seeds automatically to conference winners, but you do get in if you win your conference. Lastly, although this is 1,000 times better than the 4-team playoff and tens of thousands of times better than the old BCS system, and hundreds of thousands of times better than the old system where number 1 versus number 2 didn't play in a bowl game. What I would like to see in the future to make this system as perfect as possible, in my opinion, is a 16-team playoff that includes all conference champions, including mid-majors. So you would have 10 automatic qualifiers and 6 at-large bids, but ranked correctly. That is where I think it should go, to give the mid-majors an even more greater chance of getting in. Because now a team like Army that only has 1 loss has no chance of playing in this tournament, for example. Or what about the MAC champion Ohio? They have no opportunity, despite the fact they won their conference. And yes, that could lead to more first-round blowouts, but that's okay. I don't think it's a problem to have a few more playoff games and get rid of the buys altogether. I would get rid of the neutral sites altogether except for the championship game, and honestly, I would do away with all the other bowl games as well. But with that being said, this is the system we have in place. I love it compared to what we used to have. So, let's break it down. Yes, they got the right 12 teams, but did they get it in the right order? Well, number 1 being Oregon. I have no problem with Oregon being number 1. They're the only undefeated team left in the country. They're the best team in the country, and they won the Big Ten. They're number 1. No dispute. Number 2 being Georgia. I have no issue there either. Yes, they suffered 2 losses, and they had some close games, but they just beat Texas in the SEC championship game. And to me, they're the second best team in the country. Then you have Boise State at 3. I already told you guys what I thought about automatic qualifiers and where the buys should land for teams. But going off of the current format, it makes sense that Boise State is number 3. The same with Arizona State being 4. Being the 4th best conference champion. So no issues with that. Now, next we have Texas at 5. I have a problem with Texas at 5 and Penn State at 6. I think they should have dropped below Notre Dame and Ohio State, and I have reasons for this. Texas just lost to Georgia. They've lost to Georgia twice. Notre Dame has only lost 1 game this season. I would have Notre Dame above Texas. I would have Notre Dame being in the 5th spot. Texas taking the 7. I would have Ohio State at 6 and Penn State at 8. Why? We saw Ohio State play Penn State head-to-head, and Ohio State beat them rather handily as well. And that head-to-head has got to matter. I have no problem with Tennessee at 9, and I have no problem with Indiana at 10. I would flip Clemson and SMU, though. 11-12, because we just saw Clemson beat SMU head-to-head. So with that being said, these first-round matchups are way different than I would have predicted in my bracket. But overall, they did get the right 12. And so that's the most important part. Now that we know they got the right 12, what are my predictions for each of these games and who I think will win the college football national championship? Well, Ohio State and Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to pull off the upset in the horseshoe. I think Ohio State is reeling following their loss to Michigan, and I don't believe they will rally. I think Tennessee, despite having to go in the cold, is a faster, better team than Ohio State, and they will prove it on the field. Ohio State has been exposed a little bit with their loss to Michigan. So, a dub for Tennessee. Next, we have Clemson versus Texas. I don't think this game will be particularly close. I think Texas will win by at least a couple touchdowns here. Clemson's lucky to even get in the tournament. Texas at home. I favor them to beat Clemson. I think Quinn Ewers will have a good game, and the offense will be chugging along better than they were last week. Next up, we got SMU versus Penn State. I think Penn State's the better team. They're going to be in Happy Valley. Big home field advantage there. SMU having to play in the cold. SMU, when they have played teams that are pretty good this year, whether it's BYU or Clemson, they did in fact lose those games. Penn State's been battle-tested, and they nearly beat Oregon the previous week. So give me chalk here. Give me Penn State. And lastly, we have Notre Dame, Indiana. I think Notre Dame's going to blow out Indiana. I think they're going to blow them off the field in the dome. Not the dome, but, the Dome of the Rocks there. It's Notre Dame playing Indiana, and I think they're going to kick their ass. So, one upset in the first round for me. That's Tennessee over Ohio State. Second round, my projections. Oregon, Tennessee. That will be an extremely fun game. It will, however, be in a dome, which will help Oregon and their speed. The games that Oregon have had a problem with are games that are outside on grass. This will be in a dome, and this will help them greatly. Oregon's one of the few teams that are faster than Tennessee, and I think Oregon gets the win and moves on to the semifinals. Next up, you have Texas versus Arizona State. I think people have been underselling Arizona State all year long, and I think everybody's going to be picking Texas in this game, but Arizona State just kicked Iowa State's ass, and I think they will shock the world by beating Texas in the quarterfinals and moving on to the semifinals to play Oregon. On the bottom half of the bracket, Penn State is the worst seed versus Boise State. I think Boise State's magic carpet ride is over. Penn State gets the win. Then we have Georgia and Notre Dame. I'm picking the upset. I'm going with Notre Dame over Georgia. Georgia's on their backup QB. Georgia's had struggles all year. They've almost lost games they should have won easily. Notre Dame will get them while they're vulnerable. Notre Dame to the semifinals versus Penn State. And we'll go right there. Notre Dame, Penn State will be a great game. It's very hard for me to tell you who could win this game. But in my heart of hearts, as a fan of Notre Dame myself, I will give the slight edge to the Irish. They're actually playing so good, it's under the radar. People don't realize how good they've played. If not for a crazy win that Northern Illinois had over them, Notre Dame would also be undefeated right now. Notre Dame to the championship, to play the winner of Oregon, Arizona State. And in this game, I have to give the nod to Oregon. As much as I would love Arizona State to win and to pull off the crazy upset here, I think they're gassed out after the Texas win, and Oregon will finally put an end to their Cinderella season, thus setting up a national championship game between Notre Dame and Oregon. And I'm going to put my money on Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, to win it all. Has the 7 seed over the 1 seed. Da 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 da. Yes, Notre Dame for the win, for the championship. Those are my predictions. Guys, the CFP, they got it right. Yes, it's not quite in the same order that I would have put it, but at the end of the day, they got the right 12, so I commend the committee. Thank you all for watching the video. Please comment below who you think is going to win the national championship, and thank you for watching. Peace. Have a good one. I'm out.